Alright, Emergency Response Guidebook, 2016. Sorry I didn't get the 2020 yet. It hasn't come out free on the internet. Alright, we'll go over the highlighted entries first. The green highlighted entry and the yellow pages for entries highlighted in green, the following steps. If there's no fire, go directly to the green border pages. Look for the ID number, name the material, identify the initial isolation, protective action, and distance. If fire is involved, also consult the assigned orange guide, and if applicable, apply the evacuation information shown under public safety. Note 1. If the name of the table of the one is shown within spilled in water, these materials produce large amount of toxic inhalation or poison inhalation. In the U.S., gases are spilled in the water. Some of the water reactive material with the toxic inhalation materials themselves, bromine triethyl UN 1746, ethyl chloride UN 1836, etc. In this instance, 2 entry for the table of the 1 land-based or the water-based spills. If water reactive is not in the not a toxic inhalation, this material is not a spilled water. Is not. Spilled in water, table 1 and 2 do not apply, and safety distances will be found appropriate in the orange guide. Alright, note explosives are not individually with the ID number or emergency and situation response used on the division explosives, not in the individual explosives 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4. 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 5, guide 112. Divisions 1, 4, 1, 6, refer to guide 114. And then it goes over the ID guide name and the material, and you can see the ones in the green border. Where I'm going to read the next page. I skipped ahead of myself. Alright, the green highlighted entries in the blue page. For highlighted in green, these following steps. If there's no fire, go directly to the green border pages. Look up the ID number and name of the material. Identify the initial isolation, protective action, distance. If a fire is involved, also consult the assigned orange page guide. If applicable, apply evacuation information shown under public safety. Note 1. If the table of 1 shows when spilled in water, the materials produce a large amount of toxic inhalation, poison inhalation, gases spilled in the water. Some water reactives are toxic inhalation. Materials themselves, bromine, thorium, UN 1746, ethyl chloride 1836, etc. In these instances, the 2 entries are in the table of 1, land-based, water-based spills. If water reactive is not, material is not, a toxic inhalation, and the material is not spilled in water, table of 1 and 2 do not apply. Apply the safe distance will be found in appropriate orange guide. Note 2, explosives are not individually listed with the name of the because of the emergency situation. The response will be based on the division explosives, not on the individual explosives. Only on the division explosives, not on the individual explosives. 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 5, refer to guide 112, divisions 1, 4, 1, 6 for guide 114. And then it shows some more pages of the blue bordered with a green highlighted. Means it's not on fire. We'll skip through this. And this is a lot of this. Alright, then the orange pages, which is I wanted to get to. Alright, now we're gonna read the guides, the orange book, the guides, and that will be pretty much the rest of the video. Rest of the video for this book. Alright, mixed load, unidentified cargo, guide 111, fire explosion. If the potential hazard, there's a fire explosion hazard, maybe explode, heat shock, friction, contamination, may react violently exposed with the contact air, water, foam, may be ignited by heat sparks or flames. Vapor may travel to the source with ignition, flashback, containers may explode when heated, ruptured cylinders may rocket. Health, inhalation, ingestion, contact substances may severe injury, infection, disease of death. High concentration gases cause asphyxiation without warning. Contact causes the burns of skin and eyes. Fire and contact water may produce irritating, toxic, corrosive gases. Run on fire control may cause pollution. All right, your public safety would be called the emergency response technical number. The shipping shipping paper not available. To no answer. Refer to the appropriate telephone number listed in the inside back of the cover. Immediate precaution measures. Isolate spill leak area at least 100 meters or 330 feet in all directions. Keep unauthorized person away. Stay upwind, uphill, and upstream. Protective clothing. Wear positive pressure self-contained breathing apparatus and structure fighter protective clothing. For structural firefighters, protective clothing provided limited protection in fire situations only, and it may not be effective in spill situations. Evacuation: if a rail car, tank truck is involved in a fire, isolate 800 meters or a half mile in all directions. Also consider initial evacuation of a half mile in all directions. All right, mixed load unidentified cargo 111 emergency response. Fire caution. Material may react with extinguished agents, small fire, dry chemicals, CO2, water spray, regular foam, large fire, water spray, fog, regular foam. Move containers line form in a condition without risk. Fire involving tanks, cool containers, flood quantities water until well after fire is out. Do not get water inside containers. Withdrawal immediately in the case of rising sound of ventilating safety distance, discolorization of the tank. Always stay away from the tanks engulfed in fire. Alright, your spill or leak. Do not touch or walk on the spilled material. Eliminate all ignition sources, smoking flames, sparks, flames, immediate air. All equipment used when handling the product must be grounded. Keep combustible wood, paper, oil, etc. away from spilled material. Use water, spray, reduce vapors, divert vapor cloud drift. Always allow water to run off contact spilled material. Prevent entry of the waterways, sewers, basements, or confined areas. Spill. Pick up in the sand, non-combustible, absorbent material. Place the containers in later disposal. Large spill, dike far ahead of the wickets paid later dispose. First aid, ensure the medical person aware of the material involved with the precaution to protect themselves, move the victim to the fresh air. 911, 911, emergency medical service, give artificial respiration. Victim is not breathing, do not use mouth-to-mouth method. If the victim is ingesting and inhale the substance, give artificial respiration aid. The pocket mask, equipped with a one-way valve with the other proper respiratory medical device. Administer oxygen when the breathing is difficult. Remove the isolation contaminated clothing and shoes. In case the contact substance, immediately flush skin and eyes, running water for at least 20 minutes. Shower, wash with soap, water. Keep the victim calm and warm. Effects of exposures, ingestion, and inhalation, skin contact, the substance may be delayed. Alright, your guide to explosives: 1112, 1315, 112. Potential hazards: fire explosion may explode with the throw fragments of up to 1 mile of more than fire reaches cargo. For information, compatible groups, letters, refer to glossary section. Health, fire product, irritating, corrosive, toxic gases, public safety. Call emergency telephone number. Shipping on the papers. The shipping paper not available. To no answer. The appropriate telephone number listed inside the back cover. Isolate the spill located immediately up to 500 meters, a third of a mile in all directions. Move people out of the line of sight, seen and away from the windows. Keep unauthorized personnel away. Stay upwind, uphill, upstream. Ventilated closed spaces before entering. Protective clothing. Wear positive pressure self-contained breathing apparatus or SCABA. The structural firefighters' protective clothing will only provide limited protection. Evacuation: large spill. Consider evacuation up to a half mile in all direction of fire. If the rail car, or trailer is involved in the fire, isolate 1 mile in all directions. Also isolate evacuation emergency responders for 1 mile in all directions. Alright, Explosion Division 1112, 1315, Guide 112, Emergency Response Guide. Fire. Do not, cargo fire. Cargo fire. Do not fight fire with fire when fire reaches cargo. Cargo may explode. Stop all traffic. Clear the area for at least 1 mile in all directions. Let burn. Do not move the cargo vehicle if the cargo has been exposed to heat. Tire vehicle fire. Use plain water. Flood it with water is not available. Then use CO2 or dry chemical or dirt. If possible, without risk, unmanned hose holders. Monitor nozzles with a maximum distance, preventing fire from spreading to the cargo area. Place special attention on tire fires. Reignition may occur. Stand by. Safe distance extinguishers ready for the possible reignition. Spill or leak. Eliminate ignition sources. No smoking, flames, sparks, flames in immediate area. All equipment used in the handling of the product must be grounded. Do not touch or walk through the spilled materials. Do not operate radio transmitter within 330 feet of the electrical detonators. Do not clean up or dispose of the expected of the under supervision of specialists. Ensure medical personnel are aware of the material involved with the take precautions to protect themselves. Move victim to the fresh air. 911 emergency medical services. Give it artificial respiration if the victim is breathing. Administer oxygen if the breathing is difficult. Remove isolated contaminated clothing. Shows. In case of the contact substance, immediately flush eyes and run water for at least 20 minutes. Alright, Guide 113, flammable, solid, toxic, wet, desensitized, explosive. Potential hazard, fire, explosion, flammable, combustible material may be ignited with a heat or spark of the flames. Dried out material may explode with exposed heat, flame, friction, shock. Treat as an explosive. Guide 112, keep material wet with water. Treat with explosive. Guide 112, runoff sewer may create fire hazard, explosion hazard. Hell, some of the toxic may be toxic. So some are toxic and may be fatal. Inhaled, swallowed, absorbed through the skin. Contact may cause burn to the skin and eyes. Fire may produce irritating, corrosive, or toxic gases. Runoff fire control pollution. Water may cause pollution. Public safety call emergency telephone number. Shipping paper. Shipping paper is not available. No answer. Refer to the appropriate telephone number listed within the backside of the cover. Isolate spill. Leak it immediately at least 100 meters, 330 feet in all directions. Keep unauthorized personal well. Stay upwind, uphill, upstream, ventilated closed spaces before entering protective clothing. Wear positive pressure, self-contained breathing apparatus. Structural firefighters protecting clothing will only provide limited protection. Evacuation. Consider the initial evacuation up to 1/3 of a mile in 1/3 of a mile in all directions. And fire. If the rail tanker car, tanker truck is involved in a fire, isolate half mile in all directions. Also consider initial evacuations of a half mile in all directions. Flammable, solid, toxic, wet, desensitized explosives. Emergency response fire. Cargo fire. Do not fight fire when it reaches fire. When it reaches cargo, cargo may explode. Stop all traffic. Clear the air for at least 1 mile in all directions. Let it burn. Do not move the cargo vehicle if the cargo has been exposed to heat, tire, vehicle fire. Use plenty of water flood if water is unavailable. The CO2, dry chemical, or dirt if possible, without risk of the unmanned hose holder. Monitor nozzle if for the maximum distance. Prevent fire spreading from the cargo area to the cargo area. Pay special attention as the fire as reignites may occur. Stand by as safe distance extinguisher ready for the possible reignition. Alright, whenever the fire hasn't reached the cargo, you're going to want to stop and not fight the fire and just get a clear distance away from it. Spill or leak. Eliminate ignition source. No smoking, flames, sparks, or flames in immediate area. All equipment used for the handling product must be grounded. Do not touch, walk through spilled material. Small spill. Flush area with flooded quantities of water. Large spill. Wet down with a water dike with a later disposal. Keep wetted product wet by slowly adding flooding quantities of water. First aid. Ensure medical awareness of the material involved with the precautions take themselves. More victim fresh air. 911 emergency medical service. Give artificial respiration if the victim is not breathing immediately. Administration oxygen if the breathing is difficult. Remove isolated contaminated clothing and shoes. In case of the contact with substance, immediately flush eyes and skin with running water for at least 20 minutes. Alright, Guide 114, Explosive Division 1416, Potential Hazards. Fire explosion may explode through fragments of 1/3 of a mile more when fire reaches the cargo. If fire reaches cargo. For information compatible group letters refer to glossary section. Health. Fire may produce irritating, corrosive, or toxic gases. Public safety call emergency response telephone number. Shipping paper. If the shipping paper is not available, no answer. Appropriate telephone number listed on the inside back cover. Isolate, spill and leak immediately with at least 330 feet in all directions. Move people out of the line of sight of the scene, away from the windows. Keep unauthorized person away. Stay uphill and upstream of the wind. Ventilate closed space before entering. Protective clothing. Wear positive pressure self-contained breather apparatus. Structural firefighter protective clothing will only be of limited protection. Evacuation. Large spill. Consider evacuation up to 800 feet in all directions. If the rail car or trailer is involved in a fire, isolate 1/3 mile in all directions. Initiate an evacuation, including emergency response, 1/3 mile in all directions. Alright, Explosive Division 1416, Emergency Response, Fire. Cargo fire, do not fight fire with fire reaches cargo. Cargo may explode. Stop all traffic and clear the area away with 1/3 mile in all directions. Let burn. Do not move the cargo vehicle if the cargo has been exposed to heat. Alright, tire vehicle fire use plain water flood if water is not available. The CO2, dry chemical, dirt, possible without risk. Unmanned hose holders monitor nozzle maximum distance, prevent fire from spreading with the cargo. Pay special attention to tire fires. Reignition may occur. Stand by a safe distance. The extinguisher may be reignite. Spill or leak. Eliminate ignition source of the smoking flames, sparks, flames, immediate area. All equipment used for the handling product must be grounded. Do not touch or walk through spilled material. Do not operate radio transmitter within 330 feet of electric detonators. Do not clean up and dispose except for the under supervision of specialist first aid. Ensure that the medical personnel are aware of the material they involved with the take precaution, protect themselves, move victim fresh air, call 911 emergency medical services, give artificial respiration if the victim is not breathing, administrate oxygen if the breathing is difficult, remove the isolate contaminated clothing, shoes in case of contact with a substance, immediately flush the skin and eyes with running water at least 20 minutes. Supplemental information packages bearing the I4S label. The packages containing materials I4S are designed for the package manner. When involved fire, they may be vigorously localized. Detonation and projection fragments effectively usually confined with immediate vicinity packages. If fire cargo is containing between 1,4S labeled packages containing material classified 1,4S, considered isolating at least 50 feet in all directions. Firefighter normally precautions at a reasonable distance. Alright, Guide 115, gas and flammable, including refrigerated liquids. Potential hazard of the fire explosion. Extremely flammable, will be easily ignited with the heat and sparkling flames. Will form explosive mixture within the air. The vapors liquefy gas, initial heavier than the air, spread along the ground. Causing hydrogen, UN 1049. Deuterium, UN 1957. Hydrogen, refrigerated, UN 1966. And methane, UN 1971, are lighter than air and will rise. Hydrogen, deuterium fires are difficult to detect since they burn within an invisible flame. Using alternate method of detection, thermal camera, broom handle, etc., vapors may travel to the source of the ignition flashback. Cylinders exposed with the fire may vent and with the release flammable gas of the pressure relief devices. Containers may explode when heated. Ruptured cylinders may be rocket. Health vapor may cause dizziness, asphyxiation. Without warning, some of the irritating inhalated high concentration contact with the gas, liquefied gas may cause burns, severe injury, or frostbite. Fire may produce irritating toxic gas. Public safety, call emergency telephone number and the shipping paper. The first, if the shipping paper is not available to no answer, refer to the appropriate telephone number to list on the inside back cover. As immediate precaution measure, isolate the spill and leak area at least up to 330 feet in all directions. Keep unauthorized person away. Stay upwind, uphill, and upstream. Many gases are heavier than air and will spread along the ground and collect in low confined areas, sewer and basements and tanks. Protective clothing, wear positive pressure, self-contained breathing apparatus. Structural firefighting protective clothing will only provide limited protection. Always wear thermal protective clothing when handling refrigerated cryogenic liquids. Evacuation, large spill, consider initial downward and evacuation up to 1/2 mile. If the tank or rail tank car is involved, isolate up to 1 mile in all directions. Also consider initial evacuation 1 mile in all directions. In fires, liquid petroleum gas, butane, butanol, isobutanol, propylene, isobutane, propane. Also refer to the bevel. Safety precautions, page 368. Alright, gas flammable, included refrigerated liquids, Guide 115. Emergency fire response. Do not extinguish leaking gas unless the leak can be stopped. The caution, hydrogen, deuterium, hydrogen, refrigerated liquids burn with an invisible flame. Hydrogen, methane mixture compressed with the UN 2034 may burn an invisible flame. Small fire, dry chemical, CO2. Large fire with the water spray, fog, move containing with the fire air without risk. Fire involving tanks of the fire may extend the distance. Unmanned household and monitor another cooling container with a flooded quantity of the water until well as the fire is out. Do not direct water and sort for the leaks for the safety device. Icing may occur. Withdraw immediately in the case of the rising sun of ventilating safety devices. Discolorization of the tank. Always stay away from the tanks engulfed in fire. For massive fire, use unmanned hose holders. Monitor nozzle. Impossible with withdrawal of the air. Let burn. Spill leak. Eliminate ignition source with no smoking flames, spark flames, immediately air with all equipment that handle the product grounded. Do not touch walk through spilled material. Stop it if you can do so without risk. If possible, turn leak containers to the gas shape rather than liquid. Use water spray with reduced vapor and to revert vapor cloud dirt, avoid allowing water to run off the contact spilled material. Do not direct water at a spill or source of a leak. Prevent spreading of the vapors through the sewer ventilation system. Confine area to isolate area with the gas. Disperse. Caution when contact refrigerated gyrogenic liquid. Many material become brittle and are likely to break within the warning. First aid. Ensure that the medical personnel are aware of the material involved and take the precautions for themselves. Move victim fresh air. Call 911 emergency medical service with artificial respiration. The victim is not breathing. Administrator oxygen. If the breathing is difficult, remove the isolate contaminated clothing. Clothing frozen. Skin should be thawed before being removed. In case contact of the liquefied gas, frozen frosted parts of lukewarm water. Case burns, immediately cool. Affect the skin as long as possible with cold water. Do not remove the clothing adhering to the skin. Keep victim calm and warm. Alright, Guide 116, gas, flammable, unstable. Alright, potential hazard. Fire and explosion extremely flammable, would easily ignite with the heat and flames or sparks. Will form explosive mixture within the air. Silane, it would ignite with a spontaneously in the air. Those substances designed with a peat or polymerizers, explosive when heated, involved in fire. Vapors or liquefied gas initial heavier with the air and spread along ground. Vapors may travel to source ignition. Flashback cylinders explode with the fire may vent with the release of flammable gas through the pressure relief device. Containers may explode when heated. Ruptured cylinders may rocket. Health. Vapors may cause dizziness, asphyxiation without warning. Some of them may be toxic and inhaled with a high concentration. Contact with the gas liquid may cause burns, severe injury, frostbite. Fire may produce irritating or toxic gases. Public safety. Call emergency response telephone number to shipping paper first. If the shipping paper is not available, refer to the appropriate telephone number listed in the back of the cupboard. Immediately precautionary measures. Isolate spill and leak at least up to 100 meters or 330 feet in all the directions. Keep unauthorized personal waste. Stay up when uphill with the upstream. Many gases are heavier than air and will spread along the ground, collect in low confined areas, sewer basement tanks. Protective clothing when pressure valves, pressure, self-contained breathing apparatus, structural fires. Protective clothing will only provide limited protection. Evacuation, large spills. Consider initial downwind evacuation up to 1/2 mile. If the rail, tanker, car, or truck is involved, isolate up to 1 mile in all directions. Also consider the initial evacuation 1 mile in all directions. Alright, gases, flammable, unstable. Guide 116, emergency response. Do not extinguish the leaking gas unless the leak can be stopped. Small fire, dry chemical, CO2, large fire, water spray, fog. Move containers from fire area if you cannot. Move containers from the fire area if you can do without risk. Fires involving tanks, fight fire with a maximum disarm, man, hose, holder, nozzle, cool container, flooded quantities of the water until the all fire out, and no direct water at the source of the leak of the safety devices. Icing may occur. Withdrawal immediately case for the rising sound of the venting safety devices. Discolorization of the tank. Always stay away from the tanks engulfed in fire. Massive fires, unmanned house, hose holder mounted under nozzles. If possible, withdrawal of an area let burn. Or your spill or leak, eliminate ignition source, no smell, flammable flame, sparks, or flammable immediate area. All equipment used for the handling of the product must be ground. Stop leak, can do it without risk. Do not touch walking through the spilled material. Do not direct water to the spill source of the leak. If the water spray to reduce the vapor to direct vapor cloud, drift, and allowing the water to run off the spilled material if possible. Leaking containers if the gas escapes rather than liquid. Prevent entry in the waterways, sewer basement, or confined areas. Isolate the area until the gas is dispersed. Alright, first aid. Ensure that the medical personnel are aware of the materials involved and take precaution to protect themselves. Move the victim, fresh air, call 911 emergency medical. Artificial respiration, victims not breathing, administrative oxygen. Breathing is difficult. Remove the isolated, contaminated clothing and shoes. In case of contact with liquefied gas or the frosted parts with lukewarm water. In case of the burns, immediately cool the affected skin as long as possible with the cold water. Do not remove clothing if adhering to the skin. Make victim calm and warm. Guide 117, gas is toxic, flammable, extremely hazardous, potential health, toxic, extremely hazardous, may be fatal, inhaled, absorbed in the skin, initial odor, may be irritating, foul, may be deadening to your sense of smell, contacts gas, liquefied gas may cause burn, severe injury, fast bite, fire will produce irritating, corrosive, toxic gas, runoff, fire control may cause pollution, fire or explosion of these materials, extremely flammable, may form an explosive mixture with the air, may be ignited by the heat and sparks, vapor, liquefied gas, initial heavy in the air, spread along the ground. Vapors may travel the source of the ignition, flashback, runoff may create a fire explosion, had the cylinder exposed to fire, may vent the released toxic and flammable gas through the pressure relief devices, containers may explode when heated, ruptured cylinders may rocket. Alright, public safety, call emergency, respond with the telephone number, then shipping paper the first. If the shipping paper is not available, no answer for the appropriate telephone number listed in the side of the back of the cover. Immediate precautionary measures to isolate spill in the leak areas up to 330 feet in all the directions. Keep unauthorized personal ways. Stay upwind and uphill with the upstream. Many gases heavier than air and will spread along the ground and collect in low confined areas of the sewer basement. Think to ventilate closed spaces before entering. Protective clothing, wear pressure self-contained breathing apparatus, wear collective chemical protective clothing is especially recommended. But the manufacturer provided little or no thermal protection. Structural fires and protective clothing. Protective clothing provides limited protection. Fire situation only is not effective with the spill solution situations where direct contact with substances possible. Evacuation spill, see Table 1, initial isolation, protective action, distances. Fire, if the tank, rail car, tanker truck is involved in a fire, isolate up to 1 mile in all directions. Also consider the initial evacuation 1 mile in the directions. Alright, gas is toxic, flammable, extremely hazard. Guide 117. Emergency response. Now, extinguish a leaking gas fire unless the leak can be stopped. Small fire, dry chemical, CO2, water spray, regular foam, large fire, water spray, fog, regular foam. Move container of the fire area to do not without risk. The damaged cylinder shall have been handled only by specialists. Fire involving tanks. Fight fire, maximum distance, unmanned hose, holder mounted dirt nozzle, the cooler containers, flood quantities, water until well after the fire is out. Do not direct water to source leak within safety devices. Icing may occur. Withdrawal immediately in case of the rising sound. Ventilating the safety devices. Discolorization tank. Always stay away from the tanks engulfed in fire. Spill or leak. Eliminate the ignition source and no smoke, flames, sparks over the immediate air. With all equipment used for the handling product must be ground with the encapsulation vapor product. Clothing should be worn with the spills leaking with no fire. But do not touch the walk through the spilled material with the top leak. If you can do without risk, use water spray to reduce vapors. Divert vapor cloud drift, allowing water to run off the contact spilled material. Do not direct water to at a spill or source the leak. If possible, to turn the leaking container if the gas escapes rather than the liquid. Prevent entryways into water, sewer basements, confined area with the isolate with the air with the gas dispersed. Consider ignition source of leak and eliminate toxic gas concerns. First aid, ensure medical awareness is for the material involved to take precaution, protect themselves, move the victim, fresh air, call 911 emergency medical service, give the artificial respiration to the victim. If not breathing, do not use the mouth to mouth method. If the victim is ingested or inhaled the substance, to give the artificial respiration aid, the pocket mask equipped with one-way valve with the other proper respirator and the medical device. Administrate oxygen, breathing in the difficult, remove the isolated contaminated clothing and shoes. In case of the contact with the substance, immediately flush eyes and running water for at least 20 minutes. In case of the contact with liquefied gas, the frostbite parts, the frost parts, lukewarm water. In case of burns, immediately cool affected skin as long as possible with cold water. Do not move the clothing adhering to the skin. Keep victim calm and warm. Keep victim under observation. Effects of contact inhalation may be delayed. Guide 118, gas, flammable, corrosive, potential hazards. Fire explosion, extremely flammable, may be ignited by the heat of sparkle. Flames may form explosive mixtures within the air, liquid vapor, liquefied gas, initial heavier than air, and spread along the ground. Vapors may travel to source ignition, flashback. Some of these materials may react violently with a large cylinder explode, but the fire may vent. Release flammable gas through pressure relief devices. Containers may explode when heated. Ruptured cylinders may rocket. Health may cause toxic effects inhaled. Vapors, extremely irritating contact with the gas, liquefied gas burns, severe injury and frostbite. Fire will produce irritating and corrosive, and the toxic gas runoff of the fire control may cause pollution. Public safety, call an emergency telephone number. The shipping paper, if shipping paper is not available, to no answer for the appropriate telephone listed on the back of this cover. Also, immediate precaution measure for the isolated spill of the leak of up to 330 feet in all the directions. Keep unauthorized personal ways. Stay upwind and uphill and upstream. Many gases heavier than air will spread along the ground and collect in low confined areas. Ventilate ventilate with closed space before entering. Protective clothing, wear positive pressure, self-contained breathing apparatus, chemical protective clothing, especially recommended with the manufacturer, provide little or no thermal protection. Structural fighting protective clothing provides limited protection fire situation only, is not effective with the spill situation, direct contact substance if possible. Evacuation, large spill, consider initial downward evacuation up to a half mile. If the tank of the rail car tank truck is involved, isolate to 1 mile in all directions. Also consider the initial evacuation 1 mile in all directions. Alright, gas is flammable, corrosive, 118 fire. Do not extinguish a leaking gas fire with the inlet unless the leak can be stopped. Small fire, dry chemical, CO2, large fire, water spray, fog, regular foam may contain with the fire area with if you can do without risk. Damaged cylinders should be handled only by a specialist. Fire involving the tanks. Fight fire for the maximum distance. Use the unmanned hose holders for the monitor nozzle. Cool container to the flooding quantity of the water until the fire. After the fire is out, do not direct water in the source of the leak of the safety device. Icing may occur. Withdraw it immediately in case of rising sound from venting safety devices. Discolorization tank. Always stay away from the tank and engulf in fire, spill, or leak. Eliminate all ignition source, fire, spark, flames, immediate air, but also equipment. The handling of the product must be ground fire and fully encapsulating vapor protective clothing should be worn for spills and leaks and no fire. Do not touch and walk through the spilled material. Stop the leak if you do without risk. If possible, turn the leakage containers so the gas escapes the liquid. If you use water spray with a reduced vapor to divert vapor cloud drift, avoid allowing water runoff the contact spilled material. Do not direct water and spill and source the leak. Isolate until the gas is dispersed. First aid. Ensure medical personnel are aware of the material involved to take the precautions of themselves. Move the victim to fresh air. Call 911 emergency medical service. Call. Give artificial respiration to the victim if is not breathing. Do not use mouth-to-mouth necking with ingested with inhaled substance. Give artificial respiration with the aid of the pocket mask supply with a one-way valve with a proper respiratory medical device. Administrate oxygen if breathing is difficult. Move and isolate with contaminated clothing and shoes. In contact with liquefied gas, thawed frosted parts with lukewarm water. In case burns, immediately cool affected skin as long as possible with cold water. Do not remove the clothing adhering to the skin. Keep victim calm and warm. Keep victim under observation of efforts of the contact inhalation may be delayed. Guide 119, gas toxic, flammable, potential hazard. Toxic health. Toxic may be fatal if inhaled, absorbed through the skin. Contact with gas, liquefied gas may cause burns, severe injury, or frostbite. Fire will be produced irritating, corrosive, toxic gas. Runoff from the fire may cause pollution. Alright, fire explosion. Flammable may be ignited with a heat or spark of the flame. May form explosive mixture within the air. The substance is designated with a P for the polymizer with the explosively with the heat involved in the fire. Vapors, liquefied gas, initial heavier than air, spread along the ground. Vapors may travel to the source of ignition. Flashback, some material may be react violently to the water. Cylinders explode with the fire may vent with the release of the toxic flammable the gas through the pressure relief devices. Container may explode when heated. The rupture cylinders rocket. The runoff may create a fire and explosion hazard. Alright, public safety, call the emergency telephone number, shipping paper the first, and shipping paper is not available to no answer for the appropriate telephone number to lift them back. Cover the immediate precautions measure for the isolate with the leak area of the 330 feet with the all direction. Keep it unauthorized personal way. Stay upwind, uphill with the upstream with the make gas the heavier than air will spread around. Collect low and confined air with the sewer basement and tank with a ventilated closed space before entering. Protective clothing. When positive pressure, self-contained breathing apparatus, the chemical protective clothing special recommended the manufacturer provide little or no thermal protection. Structural firefighters protect with the clothing, limited protection, and firefighting situations not effective with the spill situations when the direct contact with the substance is possible. Evacuation spill. See Table 1. Initial isolation protective action distance if the highlighted material increases. Downwind directions necessary isolation conditions shown by the public safety. Fire. If the tank of the rail car or the tank truck is involved in the fire, isolate to 1 mile in all directions. Consider the initial evacuation 1 mile in all directions. Alright, gas toxic, flammable 119, fire emergency. Fire. Do not extinguish the leaking gas fire unless the leak can be stopped. The dry chemical CO2 to water spill with the alcohol resistant foam. The large fire water spill fog with the alcohol resistant foam. Form chlorosilines. Do not use water. AFFF alcohol resistant medium expansion foam. Move containers from the fire if you can do without risk. Damaged cylinders should be handled with only by specialists. Fires involved in tanks, fighting a fire with maximum distance, unmanned hose holders, monitor nozzle, cooling containers, flooding quantities of the water until all after the fires are out. Do not direct water at the source of the leak with the safety devices. Icing may occur with withdrawal immediately with the cave of the rising sound. Ventilating safety devices, discolorization tank. Always stay away from the tank engulfed in fire. Alright, if it's a spill or a leak, eliminate ignition source with no smoking flame within the flames, immediate air. All equipment used for the handling the product may be grounded. Fully encapsulating vapor protective clothing should be worn and spilled with the leaks with no fire. Do not touch or walk through spilled material. Stop leak if you can do without risk. Do not direct water and spill water at the spill or source of the leak. Use water spray to reduce the vapor to divert vapor cloud drift. Avoid allowing water runoff to come contact the spilled material. From chlorines to the AFFF alcohol-resistant medium expansion foam to reduce vapors, if possible, turn the leak containers the gas examples rather than liquid. Prevent entry with the waterways, sewers, basements, and confined areas. Isolate area until gas has dispersed. First aid. Ensure the medical personnel are aware of the material involved with the taking the precaution to protect themselves. Move the veteran from fresh air of the 9/11 emergency services. Get artificial respiration if the victim is breathing. Do not use mouth-to-mouth the victim if ingested. Inhale the substance. Give it artificial respiration aid. Pocket mask equipped with one-way valve with the proper respiratory and medical devices. Administrate oxygen. Breathing is difficult. Remove the isolate with contaminated clothing, shoes. Give the contact substance immediately. Flush the eyes with running water for the last at least 20 minutes. Give the contact liquefied gas, thawed frosted parts with lukewarm water, and give the burns immediately. Cool from the skin as long as possible with the cold water. Do not remove the clothing and adhering to the skin. Keep victim calm and warm. Keep victim under observation. Effects of the contact inhalation may be delayed. Alright, gases and air, including refrigerated liquids, potential hazard for the vapor health. Vapors may cause dizziness and asphyxiation without warning. Vapors, liquefied gas, and initial heavier than air spread along the ground. Contact with the gas, liquefied gas may cause burn, severe injury, or frostbite, fire, explosion. Non-flammable gas containers may explode when heated. Ruptured cylinders may rocket. Public safety. Call emergency telephone number, shipping paper. The first shipping paper is not available to the appropriate telephone number to listen in the back. Cover the immediate precautionary measure. Isolate and leak area up to 330 feet in all directions. Keep unauthorized personal away. Stay upwind, uphill, upstream. Many gases heavier than what will spread along the ground, collecting low confined areas, sewers, basement tanks. Ventilate closed spaces before entering. Protective clothing, wear pressure, self-contained breathing apparatus. Structural fire providers. Protective clothing will only provide limited protection. Always wear thermal protective clothing. Handling a refrigerated cryogenic liquid or solids. Evacuation of large spills. Consider initial downwind evacuation up to 330 feet. A tank or rail car, tank truck is involved in a fire. Isolate up to 1/2 mile in the direction. Also consider the evacuation of 1/2 mile in all directions. Alright, gas and air, including refrigerated liquids, emergency response, Guide 120, fire. Use extinguishing agent suitable for the type of the surrounding fire. Remove the containers of the first air from the fire air with it can do without risk. Damaged cylinders should be handled only by specialists. Fire involved in the tank's fire with maximum distance on man hose holders, not monitoring nozzles, cooler containers, flooding quantities of the water well until the fire is out. Do not direct water at the source of the leak with the safety devices. Icing may occur. Withdrawal immediately with the causing the rising sound. Preventing safety devices. Discolorization of the tank. Always stay away from the tank engulfed in fire. Alright, spill or leak. Do not touch the wall through the spilled material to stop the leak. And if you do without risk, use water spray to reduce vapor, divert vapor cloud drift. Allow water to run off the contact spilled material. Do not direct water on the spill source of the leak. If possible, return the leak containers if the gas escape with rather than liquid. Prevent entry of the waterways, sewers, basement, and confined areas. Allow substance to evaporate. Vent area with caution. When contact refrigerated cryogenic liquids, many materials may become brittle and are likely to break without warning. First aid. Ensure medical personnel aware of the material involved to take the precaution to protect themselves. Move victim to fresh air. Call 911 emergency medical services. Give the artificial respiration victim if not breathing. Administrated oxygen. Breathing is difficult. Clothing frozen to the skin should be thawed before being removed. In case of the contact liquefied gas, thawed frost parts with lukewarm water. Keep victim in the calm and warm. Alright, Guide 120, gases in air, potential health. Vapor may cause dizziness, asphyxiation with the water without warning. Vapors of liquefied gas are heavier than air and spread along the ground. Fire explosion, non-flammable gas container may explode heated. Rupture cylinders may rocket. Public safety call emergency response. The telephone number to shipping paper. The shipping paper is not available. No answer. The appropriate telephone number to lift it inside of the back of the cupboard. Immediate precautionary isolate. Spill, leak in the air with up to 330 feet in all directions. Keep unauthorized personal waste upwind, uphill, and upstream. Many gases of the heavier than hot air will spread along the ground, collecting low confined areas, sewer basement tanks, ventilated closed space for them before entering. Protective clothing. Wear positive pressure, self-contained breathing apparatus, or the structural firefighters breathing. Protective clothing will only provide a limited protection. Evacuation, large bill considered downward evacuation up to 330 feet. If the rail tank or rail car, tank truck that involved isolate up 1.5 mile in all directions. Consider the initial evacuation a half mile in all directions. Alright, gas and air, Guide 121, emergency response. Fire extinguishing agent suitable for the type of the surrounding fire and contained with the air, fire area without risk. Damage cylinders shall be handled only by specialists. Fire involving tanks, fire from the maximum distance of the unmanned hose holder, monitor nozzles, cool container, flood quantity of the water until the water well or fire is out. Do not direct the water and source the leak with the safety device. Icing occur. Withdraw immediately with the cause of the rising sound, or the venting safety device, discolorization tank. Always stay away from the engulfed fire, spill or leak. Do not touch or walk with the spilled material. Stop leak if you can do without risk. Use water sprays to reduce the vapor, to divert the vapor cloud with the drift. Avoid allowing water to run off the contact spilled material. Do not direct water or the spill or source the leak with possible leaking containers. Gas escapes rather than liquid. Preventing entry of the waterways, sewers, or basement confined areas. Allow substance to evaporate, ventilate the area. First aid, ensure medical personnel are aware of the materials involved and take the precautions to protect themselves. Move victim to fresh air. Call 911 emergency medical services. Asphyxiation, artificial respiration. Victim is not breathing. Administrated oxygen is breathing is difficult. Keep victim and calm and warm. Our gases oxidizing, including refrigerated liquids, potential fire and explosion. Substances do not burn until with the support of the combustion. Some of the reactors explosive with the fuel may ignite with combustible wood, paper, and clothing, and oil. Vapor, liquefied gases are heavier than air and spread along the ground. Runoff may create fire, and explosion of hazard containers may explode with a heated rupture cylinders may rocket. Health vapors may cause dizziness, asphyxiation without warning. Contact with the gas liquid may cause burn, severe injury, or the frostbite. The fire may produce with irritating or toxic gas. Public safety call emergency number, the telephone number to shipping paper. The first, if the shipping paper is not available, no answer. Refer to the appropriate telephone number to list in the inside of the back of the cover. As an immediate precautionary measure, isolate and spill leak air with at least 330 feet in all directions. Keep unauthorized personal waste. Stay upwind, uphill, and upstream. Many gases heavier than air will spread along the ground and collect in low confined areas. The sewer basement and tanks ventilated closed spaces before entering. Protective clothing, wear pressure, positive pressure, self-contained breathing apparatus, wear chemical protective clothing with special recommended the manufacturer provide with little or no thermal protection. Structural firefighter protective clothing provides limited protection in fire situation. Only is not effective in the spill situation with a direct contact with substance as possible. Always wear thermal protective clothing with a handling of the refrigerated cryogenic liquids. Evacuation, large spill with a consider the initial downward evacuation 1/3 mile. If the tank of the rail car, tank or truck is involved, isolate with up to 1/2 mile in all directions. Also consider the initial evacuation 1/2 mile in all directions. Alright, Guide 122, gas oxidizing, including refrigerated liquids, fire, use extinguishing agents suitable to the type of the surrounding fire, small fire, dry chemical, CO2, large fire, water supply, the fog, regular foam, move the containers from fire, air that it can do without risk. Damage cylinders should be handled only by specialists. Fire involving tanks of the firefighting with the maximum distance of the man hose holders and monitoring nozzles, cool container and flooding quantity of the water until the water is, after the fire is out. Do not direct water at the source of the leak of the safety devices. Icing may occur. Withdraw immediately in the case of the rising sound with the venting safety devices. Discolorization tank. Always stay away from the tanks engulfed in the fire for the massive fire. Unmanned hose holders, monitoring nozzle plot. Impossible withdrawal of the air and let burn. Spill or leak, the keeping combustible wood, paper, or oil away from the spilled material. Do not touch the walk through the spilled material with a stop leak if they do not do without risk. If possible, turn the leak containers over the gas shape rather than liquid. Do not direct water from the spill or source the leak with the use of the water spray to reduce the vapor, to divert vapor cloud drift. Avoid allowing water to run off the contact spilled material and prevent an entry with the waterway, the sewer of the basement with the confined area. Allow substance to evaporate, isolate until the gas is dispersed. Caution when contact with refrigerated cryogenically wet as many materials become brittle and are likely to break without warning. First aid, ensure medical personnel are aware of the material involved and take the precautions to protect themselves. Move the victim to fresh air. Call 911 emergency medical. So for the give the artificial respiration, the victim is not breathing administrated oxygen. If breathing is difficult, move the isolation of the contained clothing and shoes. Clothing frozen to the skin should be thawed before removed. If in case of the contact liquefied gas, the frosted parts of the lukewarm. Keep the victim calm and warm. Alright, Guide 123, gas is toxic and or corrosive. Potential hazard to health. Toxic may be fatal. Inhaled and absorbed through the skin. Vapors or may be irritating. Contact with the gas. Liquefied gas may cover the burns and severe injury with the frostbite. Fire will produce irritating, corrosive, or toxic gases. Runoff from fire control may cause pollution. Fire explosion. Some of them may burn with it but not ignite readily with the vapors. Liquefied gas are earlier heavier than air spreading along the ground. Cylinders explode with the fire may vent with the release toxic with the corrosive. Then through the pressure relief devices, containers may explode. When heated, ruptured cylinders may rocket. Public safety, call emergency telephone number. The shipping container, the shipping container with the void with no answer. For the appropriate telephone number to lift the inside of the back of the cover. Immediate precautionary measures. Isolate and link areas of at least 330 feet with all directions. Keep unauthorized personal waste. Stay up on the uphill with the upstream. Make gas heavier than the air. Will spread around the ground. Collect with low confined air with the sewer basement tank with the ventilated closing spaces before entering. Protected clothing. Use positive pressure self-contained breathing apparatus. Chemical protective clothing especially recommended by the manufacturer provide little or no thermal protection. Structural fire provide a limited protection situation only. Is not effective in spill situation when direct contact with substance is possible. Spill. See table 1 initial isolation protective action and distance for the highlighted material for the non-highlighted materials. Improve the downwind direction and for the isolation distance shown under the public safety. If the tank of the rail car, tank truck is involved, isolated 1/2 mile in all directions. Also consider initial evacuation 1/2 miles in all directions. Guide 123. Gas and toxic corrosive. Emergency response fire. Small fire, dry chemical CO2 with a large fire. Water spray, fog, more regular foam. Do not get water inside containers. Move containers from the fire. If you can do it without risk, damaged cylinders shall be handled only by specialist fire involved with the tanks. Fire from the maximum distance. Unmanned hose holders. Monitor nozzle cool containers with the flooding quantities of the water until the fire is out. Do not direct water with the source of the leak with a safety device. Icing may occur, withdrawing immediately in the case of the rising sound. More venting safety device. Discolorization tank. Always stay away from the tanks engulfed in fire. Spill or leak, fully encapsulate the vapor. Protective clothing should be worn with the spills and leaks with no fire. Do not touch with the walk through spilled material. Stop leaking if you can do it without risk. If possible, turn leaking containers so the gas escapes rather than liquid, preventing the entry of the water with sewer, basement, and confined area. Use water spray to reduce vapor. The driver vapor cloud drift. Avoid allowing water run off the contact spilled material. Do not direct water with the spill and source the leak with isolated areas until the gas is dispensed. Alright, first aid. Ensure medical personnel awareness material that involved with the take precautions to protect themselves. Move victim fresh air. Call 911 emergency medical. So for the give the artificial respiration. Victim is not breathing. Do not use mouth-to-mouth method of ingest for the inhale the substance for the artificial respiration. Aid pocket of mask. One-way valve with the other proper respiratory and medical devices. Administer oxygen for the breathing difficult. Move the isolate with the contaminated clothing and skin. In case of the contact liquefied gas with the frosted part with the lukewarm water. Give the contact of the substance immediately. Flush skin with the eyes with the running water at least 20 minutes. Keep the victim calm and warm. Keep the victim under his observation. Effects of the contact of the inhalation may be delayed. Alright, Guide 124, gas is toxic and corrosive, oxidizing. Potential hazard toxic if made from vault with the inhale with absorbed the skin. Fire will produce an irritating corrosive toxic gas. Contact with the gas, liquefied gas may cause burns and severe injury. With the frostbite runoff of the fire control may cause pollution. Fire and exposure substance does not burn will support combustion. Vapor to the liquefied gas with initial head for the air spread along the ground. These are strong oxidizers will react vigorously explosively many materials including fuels. Some will react violently with the air and moist air and water. Cylinders exposed to the fire may vent with the release toxic corrosive gas through the pressure relief devices. Containers may explode when heated. Required cylinders may rocket. Alright, public safety. Call emergency response telephone number. Shipping paper. The shipping paper is not available. No answer for the appropriate telephone number. Loose down the inside of the back cover. The immediate precaution with the isolate the spills leak of it up to 330 feet in all directions. Keep it on unauthorized personal way. Stay upwind or uphill with the upstream windy where the gases are heavy. Then air will spread along with the ground, collecting low confined air of the sewer basement. The tank is ventilated. Closed space for the entry. before entry. Wear protective pressure self-contained breathing adder, chemical protective clothing, specially recommended with the manufacturer. Provide little or no thermal protection. Structural firefighters protective clothing, limited protection fire situation only, not effective with the spill situation. Direct contact with the substance possible. Evacuation. See Table 1. Initial isolation protective action distance. If the tank of the rail tanker truck is involved, isolate a half mile in all directions. Also consider the initial evacuation 1/2 mile in the direction. Alright, Guide 124, gas is toxic and corrosive oxidizing. Fire, small fire. These materials do not burn with the support combustibility, react violently with water containing fire. Let burn with the hot. Water spray with fog is recommended. Water only, not dry chemicals, CO2 or halon. Do not get water inside of the container. Move the container of the fire in an area if you can do without risk. Damaged containers should be handled by specialist. Fire involved with the tanks. Fire from the maximum distance for the unmanned hose holder mounted or not for the cool container flooding quantity until the wall after the fire is out. Not direct water source for the leaks. So the safety device icing may occur withdrawal immediately in the case of the rising sound of venting safety devices and discolorization of the tank. Always stay away from the tank of the engulfing fire. For a massive fire, use unmanned hose holders, mounted nozzles. If possible, withdraw from the air and let free fire burn. Or spill or leak. Fire encapsulating vapor protective clothing should be worn and spilled with the leak. No fire. Do not touch the walk with spilled material. Keep combustible wood, paper, oil away from spilled material. Stop leak if you can do without risk. Use water spray. Reduce vapor to divert cloud drift. Avoid allowing water runoff at the contact spill with the material. Do not direct water spill source the leak. If possible, turn the leak container with the gas escape with a rather liquid. Prevent entry with the waterway, sewer, and basement with the confined area. Isolate with the area until the gas is dispersed. Ventilation the area. First aid. Ensure the medical awareness of the material involved with the protection of themselves. Move victims in the fresh air to 911. Get artificial respiration. Victim is breathing. Not use mouth-to-mouth medical and adjust with inhale with the substance. Give the artificial respiration aid pocket mask with a one-way valve. Allow other proper respiratory and medical device. Administrate oxygen breathing. Difficult clothing, frozen skin should be thawed before being removed. Remove isolate and contaminated clothing and shoes in case of the contact with the substance. Immediately flush skin and eyes with the running water at least 20 minutes to keep the victim calm and warm. Keep the victim under observation. Effect of the contact inhalation must be delayed. Or Guide 125, gases corrosive health. Toxic may be fatal to inhale and just to absorb the skin. Vapors extremely irritating corrosive contact with the gas liquefied. Gases may burn and severe injury. Frostbite fire will produce irritating corrosive toxic gases. Run off the fire control may cause pollution. Fire explosion, some may burn but not ignite readily. Vapors of liquefied gas initially have them in the air but spread along the ground. Some of these materials will react violently with water. Cylinders explode. The fire may vent with the release toxic corrosive gas through the pressure relief devices. Containers may explode with when heated. Rupture cylinders may rocket for UN number 1005. The anhydrous ammonia high concentration confined area presents a flammability risk. Source for the ignition is introduced. Public safety call emergency telephone number and shipping paper. If the shipping paper is not available, no answer for the appropriate telephone number to list evidence inside of the back up with immediate precaution measure. Isolate and leak area up to 330 feet in all directions. Keep unauthorized personnel away with the stay upwind and upstream and uphill. Many gases are heavier than spread along the ground and collected in low confined area and sewer basement and tanks. Ventilated closed spaces between entering protective clothing. Wear positive pressure self-contained breathing apparatus. Chemical protective clothing was specifically recommended with the manufacturer. It may provide little or no thermal protection. Structural firefighters protect with clothing provide limited protection with the fire situation. Only is not effective with the spill situation. Direct contact with the substance where possible. Evacuation. See Table 1. Initial isolation protective action distance for the highlighted material. For the non-highlighted materials, increase the downward direction as necessary. Isolation division distance shown in public safety. Fire. If the tank of the rail car, tank, or truck is involved in fire, isolate to 1 mile in all directions. Also consider the initial evacuation 1 mile in all directions. Our gas corrosive Guide 125 emergency response. Small fire, dry chemical CO2, large fire, water spray, fog, regular foam. Move containers from the fire that do without risk. Do not get water inside of the containers. Damaged cylinders should be handled only with specialists. Fire involved with the tanks. Firefighter maximum distance. Unmanned householder monitoring nozzle cooling containers flooding quantities until the fire is out with no direct water and source of the leak with the safety devices. Icing may occur with withdrawal immediately with the case of the rising sound. Venting safety devices. Discolorization of the tank. Always stay away from the tanks engulfed in fire. Alright, your spill leak for encapsulating vapor product with the clothing. This should be a warning spill with the leaks with no fire. Do not touch or walk through spilled material. Stop the leak if you can do without risk. If possible, turn the leak and contain with the gas escape rather than liquid. Prevent entry of the waterways to or basements or confined areas. Do not direct water in spills or source the leak. Use water spray to reduce the vapor to direct vapor cloud. Avoid allowing the water to run off the spilled material. Isolate until the gas is dispersed. First aid, ensure the medical service and personnel are aware of the material with the precaution to protect themselves. Move the victim fresh air. Call 911 emergency medical service. Give the artificial respiration victim that is not breathing. Do not use the mouth-to-mouth method. Ingest an inhaled substance for the give artificial respiration. Aid with the pocket mask equipped with one-way valve with the other protective proper respiratory medical devices. Administrated oxygen breathing is difficult. Remove the isolated contaminated clothing. Shoot for the contact of liquefied gas with the frosted part with lukewarm water. Indicate for the contact substance. Immediate flush in with the running water. At least 20 minutes. Indicate for the contact hydrogen fluoride and anhydrous. Flush with large amounts of water for skin contact. Calcium glow. CNA gel is available within rinse 5 minutes. Then apply gel. Otherwise, continue rinsing. Medical treatment is available for eyes. Flush water with a saline solution for 15 minutes. Keep victim calm and warm. Keep victim under observation. Affect the contacts and insulation mask may be delayed. Alright, gases compressed, liquefied, including refrigerated gas, fire explosions. Some may burn but ignite readily. Containers may explode when heated. Ruptured cylinders may rocket. Vapors may be dizziness, asphyxiation without warning. Vapors, liquefied gas heavier than the air spread along the ground. Contact gas liquid may cause burns from severe injury and/or frostbite, fire production, irritating, corrosive, toxic gases. Public safety call, emergency telephone number, shipping paper. The shipping paper is not available to no answer for the appropriate telephone number to list the inside of the back of the cover. Immediately precautions, isolate the spill and leak air with up to 330 feet in all directions. Keep unauthorized personnel on the way. Stay uphill upstream. The many gases are heavier and they will spread along the ground and collect in low confined areas. Sewer basement tanks, ventilated closed spaces before entering. Protective clothing, positive pressure, self-contained breathing apparatus, chemical protective clothing, especially recommended the manufacturer provide little or no thermal protection. Structural fires, protective clothing will only provide limited protection. Large spills, consider initial downward evacuation 1/3 mile. If the rail tank of the rail car, tanker truck fires is involved in fire, isolate 1/2 mile in all directions. Also consider the initial evacuation 1/2 mile in all directions. Gases compressed, liquefied, including refrigeration gas 126. Emergency response guide. Use extinguisher agent suitable to the type of the surroundings. Small, dry, chemical CO2. Large fire, water spray fire, fog, regular foam. Move contained with the fire air without risk. Damaged cylinders should be handled only by specialists. Fire involved with the tank. Scare fire with the maximum distance on manholes. Hold and monitor nozzle the cool container flooding quantity of the water until the well after the fire is out. Do not direct the water source the leak with a safety device. The icing may occur with withdrawal immediately with a case of rising sound with a venting safety device. Of discolorization tank. Always stay away from the tank of the gulp and fire. Some of these materials spilled may evaporate, leaving flammable residue spill or leak. Do not touch or walk on spilled material. Stop the leak if they do without risk. Do not drink water at the spill or source of the leak. Use water spray to reduce the vapor to avert vapor cloud drift. Avoid allowing water to run off the contact spilled material. If possible, use turn leak containers for the gas escape rather than liquid. Prevent entry of the waterways, sewers, basement, and confined areas. Allow substance to evaporate. Ventilate the area. First aid. Ensure the medical personnel are aware of the material involved to take the precaution to protect themselves. Move the victim fresh air. Call 911 emergency medical services. Artificial respiration if the victim is breathing. Administrative oxygen breathing is difficult. Remove the isolated contaminated clothing, shoes. Give the contact liquefied gas at the frosted parts of the lukewarm water. Keep victim calm and warm. Alright, Guide 127. Flammable liquids, water miscible. Potential have the hot fire explosion. Highly flammable will be easily ignited. The heat and sparks of flame. Vapors may expose mixture with the air. Vapors may travel the source of the ignition flashback. Most vapors heavier than the air will spread along the ground, collecting low confined areas. Sewer basement and tanks. Vapor explosion has indoor, outdoors, and sewer. Their substance for the design with a P for the polymizer explosive when heated or involved in fire. Run off the sewer that may create the fire explosion. Have the name that may explode when heated. Many liquids are lighter than water. Health, inhalation, contact material irritate, burns eyes and skin. Fire may produce irritating, corrosive, toxic gas. Vapors may cause dizziness, suffocation. Runoff of the fire control may cause pollution. Response public safety call emergency response telephone number to shipping paper. The first shipping not available to no answer for the preferred appropriate telephone number to lift it inside the back of the cover. Immediate precaution measure for the isolated the spill leak with up to 150 feet in all the direction. Keep unauthorized person away. Stay uphill, upwind, uphill, upstream, ventilated closed space before entering. Protective clothing, wear protective pressure, self-contained breathing apparatus, structural firefighting. Protective clothing will only provide limited protection. Evacuation large spill. Consider initial downward evacuation of 1,000 feet. If the rail, tanker car, tank truck is involved in the fire, isolate up to 1/2 mile in all directions. Also consider the initial evacuation 1/2 mile in all directions. Alright, flammable liquids, water, miscible, guide 117. Emergency response, fire caution. All these products that have very low flash point, use the water spray with the firefighting may be inefficient. Caution fire from UN 1170, 1987, and 3475. Alcohol resistant foam should be used with the spray of the fire. Dry chemical CO2 water spray with alcohol resistant fire. For small fire, large fire, water spray, fog, alcohol resistant foam. Do not use straight streams. Move containers with the fire away that you can do without risk. Fire involved with the tanks and trailers, loads. Fire, maximum distance, unmanned hose holders are monitored. Nozzle, cool containers, flowing quantities of the waters until the well after the fire is out. Withdraw immediately with the casing with the rising sound. Preventing safety device discolorization tank. Always stay away from the tanks engulfed in fire. From fire, unmanned hose and hose holders, monitoring nozzle possible withdrawal of the air and let fire burn. Your spill, leak, eliminate ignition sources, no smoking flames, sparks, flames, immediate air. All equipment that use the handling product of the ground. Do not touch ground. Touch or walk through spill material. Stop leak if you can do without risk. Prevent entry with the waterway, sewer, basement. Confined areas, vapor suppression foam. Maybe you with the reduced vapor. Absorb cover with the dry earth and sand with non-combustible material to transfer the container. The use of cleaning non-sparking tools to collect and absorb material. Large spills, dike far ahead in liquid spill and later disposal of water spray may reduce vapor, but may not prevent ignition in closed spaces. Fire, first aid. Ensure medical personnel are aware of the material involved with the precautions themselves. Move victim fresh air. Call 911 emergency medical service. Artificial respiration. Victim is not breathing. Administrated oxygen. Breathing is difficult. Move, isolate, contain clothing and skin. Shoes. Move, isolate, and contaminated clothing and shoes. In case of contact, the substance immediately flush skin and eyes with the running water at least 20 minutes. Wash skin with soap and water. In case the burns immediately cool affected skin for as long as possible with chlorine. Do not move clothing adhering to the skin. Keep victim calm and warm. Alright, Guide 128. Flammable liquids, water, and miscibles. Potential to have the fire or explosion. Highly flammable, easily ignite with the heat and spark of flame. Vapors may form explosive mixture of the air. Vapors may trouble the source of the ignition flashback. Most vapors are heavy in the air, will spread around the ground, collecting low and confined air with the sewer basement. Tank of vapor explosion has within indoors and outdoors and sewer. These substances designed with a P polymers are explosively heated involved with the fire. Run off the sewer may create the explosion have the container that may explode with the heated main liquid lighter than water substances may be transported. Hybrid vehicles, Guide 147, lithium-ion batteries, Guide 138. Sodium batteries should also be consoled with the molten aluminum is involved with the preferred Guide 169. Health, inhalation, contact with the material, irritate the burn skin, eye. The fire may produce the irritating corrosive toxic gas vapors cause dizziness, suffocation, run off with the fire control, dilution. Water may cause pollution. Public safety, emergency response to the telephone number, shipping paper, the first shipping number not available to no answer for the referred appropriate telephone number, limited listing of the inside of the back of the cover, immediate precautions, isolate the spill, leak air with up to 150 feet in all directions, keep unauthorized personal away, stay upwind, uphill, upstream, the ventilated closed spaces before entering, protective clothing, wear positive pressure, self-contained breathing apparatus, structural firefighter, protective clothing will only provide limited protection, evacuation, large spills, consider initial downward evacuation of 1,000 feet, if the tank of the rail tanker car is involved, for 1/2 mile in all directions. Also consider the evacuation of 800 meters or 1/2 mile in all directions. Alright, flammable liquids, water, and miscible with Guide 128. Fire. Caution. Although the products have a lower flash point, use the water spray with the fire may be inefficient, but for a mixture containing alcohol, polar solvent, and alcohol-resistant foam may be more effective than small fire. Dry chemical CO2 water spray, regular foam, large fire water spray foam, regular foam, and fog. Do not use stray streams. Move container of the fire if you can do without risk. Fire involved with the tank of the trailer loads. Firefighting the maximum distance. Unmanned hose holders. Monitor nozzle cool container flooding quantities of water until with the water well after the fire is out. Withdraw immediately the cave of the rising sound with the remaining safety devices, discolorization of the tank. Always stay away from the tanks engulfed in fire. For massive fires go. Use unmanned hose hold monitor nozzles if possible. Withdraw the air from the fire. Spill or leak. Eliminate ignition sources. No smoking, flares, sparks, or flames in the immediate area. All equipment handling product with the ground and do not touch walk through spilled material. Stop leak if you can do without risk. Prevent entry with the waterways, sewer basement of the confined area. Vapor suppression foam may be used to reduce vapors. Absorb, covered with dry earth, sand, or non-combustible material. Transfer container. Use clean, non-sparking tools to collect absorbed material. Large spill. Far ahead liquid spills or later disposal. Water sprays may reduce vapor, may not prevent ignition spaces. Closed spaces. First aid. Ensure the medical personnel are aware of the material involved and take precaution to protect themselves. More victims. Fresh air. Call 911 emergency medical. Strip of the artificial respiration. Victim is not breathing. Administrative oxygen. Breathing is difficult. Move, isolate contaminated clothing and shoes. In case of contact substance, immediately flush eyes with running water at least 20 minutes. Wash skin with soap and water in case of the burns immediately affect the skin as long as possible with the cold water. Do not move the clothing adhering to the skin. Keep the victim calm and warm. Alright, flammable liquids, water, miscible, non-noxious. Noxious. Potential hazard of the fire explosion. High flammable will easily ignite with the heat and spark of the flame. Vapor that may explode in the mixture of air. Vapor may travel the source of the ignition flashback. Most vapor is heavier than air will spread along with the ground and collect in low flying confined areas. Sewer and basement tank of the vapor explosion hazard in indoors, outdoor sewers. The substance is designated with a P polymerized explosive. The heat involved in the fire. A runoff of the sewer may create a fire explosion hazard. Containers may explode when heated, mainly liquid than water. Health may cause toxic effect inhaled with absorbed through the skin. Inhalation with contact with materials that irritate the burning eyes and skin and eye with the fire will produce the irritating corrosive toxic gas. The vapors may cause dizziness, ossification, runoff, fire control, dilution may cause pollution. Public safety call, emergency number, emergency response telephone number, and shipping paper the first. If the shipping paper is not available, no answer, refer to the appropriate telephone number listed inside the back of the cover. Precaution, isolate spills, leak area up to 150 feet in all directions. Keep unauthorized personal oil. Stay uphill and upstream. Ventilated closed spaces before entering. Protective clothing with positive pressure, self-contained breathing apparatus, structural firefighting. Protective clothing will only provide limited protection. Evacuation, large spill. Consider downwind evacuation up to 1,000 feet. If tank of the rail car, tank truck is involved, isolate up to 1/2 mile in all directions. Consider with the initial direction and 1/2 in all directions. Alright, Guide 129, flammable liquids, water, miscible, noxious, fire. Caution, all these products have low flashing point. Use water for the firefighting may be inefficient. Dry chemical, CO2, water spray, alcohol, resistant foam. Do not use chemical extinguisher to control the fires involving nitromethane, UN 11261, or nitroethane, UN 2842. Large fire, water spray, fog, alcohol, resistant foam. Do not use straight stream. Foam over containers, fire away, but if you can do it without risk. Fire involved with tank car, tanker, trailer loads. Fire from maximum distance, unmanned hose holder, monitor nozzle, cooling containers, flooding quantities, waters until well as fire out. Well after the fire is out, with immediate in case of the rising sound of anything safe. These devices discolorization of the tank. Always stay away from tanks engulfed in fire. For massive use of the unmanned hose holder, monitor nozzle. If possible, withdraw from the area. Let it burn. Or your spill or leak, eliminate ignition sources, no smoking, flares, sparks, flames, immediate area. All equipment should be handled with the product that must be grounded. Do not touch, walk through spilled material. Stop leak if you can do it without risk. Prevent entry with the water, waste, sewer, basement, confined areas. A vapor suppressing foam may be used to reduce vapor, then absorb the cover with the dry earth and other non-combustible material. Transfer the containers. Use clean, non-sparking tools to collect, absorb material. Large spill, dyke, air, fire ahead, liquid spill, later dispose. Water spray, reduce vapor, but prevent ignition of the closed spaces. And then first aid, ensure that the medical personnel awareness of the material involved with the take precaution, protect themselves, move victim to the fresh air, call 911 emergency medical services, give artificial respiration victim is not breathing, administrative oxygen, breathing is difficult, move the isolated contaminated clothing, shoes, give the contact substance with immediate the flesh, skin, eyes with the running water for at least 20 minutes, wash skin with soap and water, and keep the burns immediately cool, effective the skin for as long as possible with cold water. Do not remove clothing if it's adhering to the skin, keep the victim in the calm water effective exposure and inhalation, ingestion, skin contact, if may be delayed. And we're on guide 130, and we're going to cut the tape there.